Commander Lisa Taylor stood at the observation deck of Earth Defense Station Alpha, her eyes fixed on the massive alien ship that had appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system 3 days ago. The vessel was unlike anything humans had built, smooth, almost organic in appearance, with pulsing lights that seemed to flow like blood through veins across its surface. "They're hailing us again," said Lieutenant Ryan Boyd, his voice tight with tension. Lisa nodded. "Put them through." The screen flickered to life, revealing the now familiar face of Ambassador Zox Turek. The alien's 6 eyes blinked in their unsettling pattern, and the translator converted his clicks and whistles into English. "Commander Taylor, the Galactic Concord has been patient. Your leaders must sign our mutual protection agreement. It is standard procedure for all new species." Lisa kept her face neutral. "Ambassador, our representatives are still reviewing the treaty. These things take time. Time is a luxury the galaxy cannot afford. The deep void threatens us all." The screen went dark as the alien cut the transmission. Lisa turned to Captain John Miller, who had been standing silently behind her. "What do you think, John?" Miller ran a hand through his gray hair. "I think there's something they're not telling us. I've been over that treaty 20 times. It's not a mutual agreement. It's a submission document." Lisa nodded. For a week now, Earth's best diplomats, lawyers, and military strategists had been analyzing the treaty. What the aliens called a mutual protection agreement would give the Galactic Concord control over Earth's military, resources, and even population distribution. "We need more information," Lisa said. "Let's see what our intelligence team has found." In the secure conference room, Analyst Ben Rivera waited with digital files spread across the table's surface. "You won't believe what we found," he said, excitement in his voice. "We compared the treaty they gave us to communications we've intercepted. Every species in the Concord signed identical treaties within days of first contact." Lisa frowned. "Every single one. No negotiations." "None," Ben replied. "And there's more. Species that hesitated." He pulled up an image of a shattered planet, nothing but asteroid debris where a world once existed. The room fell silent. Later that day, Earth's United Council gathered. Representatives from every nation sat in tense discussion as Lisa and her team presented their findings. "We cannot sign this treaty," said Council President Maria Alvarez, "but refusal might mean war." An older man stood up. He was Frank Winters, retired general and advisor to the council. "Let me be clear," he said in a steady voice. "This treaty would end human independence. We would become servants, not partners." The debate raged for hours. When Ambassador Zox Turek's image appeared on the main screen, demanding an answer, President Alvarez stepped forward. "Ambassador, we have carefully reviewed your treaty. Earth respectfully declines." All 6 of the aliens' eyes widened in what looked like shock. "This is unprecedented. You understand the consequences of refusal." "We do," Alvarez replied firmly. "But we propose an alternative. A true mutual agreement, with fair terms for both parties." "There are no alternatives," the ambassador hissed. "The treaty is standard for all species." "Not for humans," Captain Miller said, stepping into view. "We're offering friendship, not submission." The transmission ended abruptly. Lisa returned to the observation deck and watched as the alien ship's lights pulsed more rapidly. "What happens now?" Ryan asked, standing beside her. "Now we prepare," Lisa answered. "They clearly didn't expect us to say no. No one ever has before." The alien ship suddenly moved, accelerating away from Earth at incredible speed. "They're leaving." Ryan's voice held disbelief. "No," Lisa said quietly. "They're going to report back. This isn't over. It's just beginning." She turned to face the officers gathered around her. "Inform all Earth Defense Fleet vessels. Full alert status. Whatever comes next, we need to be ready." Outside the window, stars glittered in the darkness. Somewhere out there, News was spreading across the galaxy. Humans had refused to sign. News of Earth's refusal spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On the Concord capital world of Zentrix Prime, High Chancellor Vex Mora paced the circular chamber, all 8 of his limbs twitching with agitation. "Impossible," he muttered to his advisors. "No species has ever refused the treaty. Not in 10,000 cycles." Advisor Krell bowed low. "The humans are unusual, Chancellor. Our studies show they evolved on a death world. Their entire history is filled with warfare and conflict." Vex Mora paused. "Are they a threat?" "Potentially," said Krell. "Their weapons are primitive compared to ours, but they developed them independently. Most species we encounter are still using simple tools when we find them." In another part of the capital, alien anthropologist Kreezen reviewed footage of human history with growing horror and fascination. Humans had fought each other constantly throughout their development, yet they also showed remarkable compassion and cooperation when faced with shared threats. "Fascinating," Kreezen whispered, making notes. "They fight, they adapt, they survive conditions that would kill most species. No wonder they questioned the treaty." Meanwhile, Ambassador Zox Tarek's ship returned to Earth space, accompanied by 3 larger vessels. Earth's defense systems tracked their approach. In the command center, Lisa Taylor watched the screens with Sam Garcia, Earth's chief diplomatic officer. "They're back sooner than we expected," Sam said, adjusting his glasses nervously. Lisa nodded. "And they brought friends." The communication channel opened, and Zox Tarek appeared, flanked by military officials from the Concord. "Earth representatives," the ambassador began, his tone colder than before. "Your refusal has created a situation without precedent. The High Council demands reconsideration." Sam stepped forward. "Ambassador, we remain open to negotiation, but as equals. The terms you offered would reduce Earth to a servant state." One of the military officials pushed forward. "You misunderstand your place in the galaxy. The Concord has stood for 50,000 years. All species serve the greater good." "Through force?" Lisa asked. "Through order," the official replied. "Your continued defiance will have consequences." After the transmission ended, Earth's defense stations reported unusual scans probing their defenses. The alien ships maintained their position just beyond the orbit of Mars. President Alvarez called an emergency meeting. "They're assessing our strengths and weaknesses," she told the gathered leaders. "We need more information about what we're facing." Lisa turned to Sam. "Those treaty documents, could your team dig deeper? There might be clues about why they're so insistent." Sam nodded. "We've been working around the clock. There's something buried in subsection 47 that mentions biological contributions, but it's heavily encoded. Across the solar system, Earth's military prepared for potential conflict. Ships were deployed in defensive formations while civilian populations were quietly moved to safety. On the Concord ships, the military commander viewed Earth's preparations with surprise. They organized quickly, he noted to Ambassador Zox Tarek. "Most species panic when we show force. Humans are warriors by nature," the ambassador replied. "But they are still primitive. They cannot stand against the Concord." Back on Zentrix Prime, High Chancellor Vex Mora met with the Inner Council. "The humans have refused our generous offer," he told the assembled alien leaders. "This cannot be tolerated. If one species defies us, others might follow." An ancient counselor raised a withered hand. "Perhaps we should simply destroy them, as we did with the Krellex." "No," said another counselor. "Our scouts report the humans possess unusual biological traits. They could be valuable against the deep void." Vex Mora nodded slowly. "We will give them one more chance to submit. If they refuse again." He left the threat unspoken. On Earth, night fell over the command center. Lisa stood at the window, watching the stars. Sam joined her, holding a tablet. "I found something," he said quietly. "These treaty terms, they're not just about resources or territory. They'd want our people." For what? Lisa asked. Sam's face was grim. I think they're fighting a war they're not telling us about. And they need soldiers who can survive conditions their own people can't. Lisa looked back at the stars. Then we definitely made the right choice by refusing. But what happens now? Sam asked. Now, Lisa said, we prepare for whatever comes next. Sam Garcia had not slept in 36 hours. His eyes burned as he stared at the alien text on his screen. With help from the translation team, he had finally decoded Section 47 of the treaty. Lisa, you need to see this, he called out, his voice tight with urgency. Commander Lisa Taylor crossed the room quickly. What did you find? Sam pointed to the screen. This clause would allow the Concord to take up to 30% of our population annually for what they call void defense operations. They could conscript humans into their military forces. Lisa read the text, her face growing pale. And this was buried in legal jargon so complex even our best translators missed it. Exactly, Sam nodded. Every species that signed this treaty unknowingly agreed to provide soldiers. Lisa picked up her comm unit. We need to alert President Alvarez immediately. Across the base, intelligence analyst Nick Peterson worked with a team to decrypt intercepted Concord communications. The aliens didn't know that humans had developed a way to tap into their transmissions. I think I've got something, Nick said to his team. He adjusted his glasses and read from his screen. According to this message from their science division, humans are biologically unique in the galaxy. Unique how? Asked his colleague, Emma Scott. We can survive conditions most species can't. Extreme heat, cold, radiation levels that would kill others, Nick explained. And our endurance is unmatched. We evolved on a high-gravity world with diverse climate zones. Emma leaned back in her chair. So that's why they want us. We're perfect soldiers for whatever this deep void threat is. In the main conference room, Earth's leaders gathered once again. President Alvarez stood at the head of the table, her face resolute. The evidence is clear, she said. This treaty is not about protection or galactic cooperation. It's about harvesting our people for their war effort. We must stand firm, said General Howard from the Joint Military Command. If we sign, we lose our freedom forever. The vote was unanimous. Earth would not only refuse the treaty but demand equal partnership in any future negotiations. Ambassador Zox Tarek received their message with clear disbelief. This is your final decision, he asked, all six eyes blinking rapidly. It is, President Alvarez replied firmly. Earth will join the galactic community only as an equal partner. You do not understand what you're doing, Zox Tarek said. The Concord has never been defied like this. Perhaps it's time someone did, Lisa said from her position beside the president. After the transmission ended, Lisa turned to Sam. What do you think they'll do next? Based on historical patterns, they'll try to intimidate us, Sam replied. Show of force, probably. He was right. Within hours, 5 more Concord ships arrived in the solar system, taking positions around Earth's orbital defenses. Back on the Concord capital world, High Chancellor Vex Mora received troubling reports. Chancellor, the humans have been intercepting our communications, an intelligence officer reported. They know about the conscription clause. Vex Mora slammed a limb down on his console. Impossible. Their technology is too primitive. Apparently not, the officer replied nervously. And there's more. Several member species have begun asking questions about their own treaties. The Chancellor's color darkened with rage. This contamination must not spread. Prepare the fleet. If the humans will not submit, they must be quarantined. On Earth, Nick Peterson discovered something else in the Concord files. Lisa, look at this, he said, pointing to his screen. There are records of other species who refused to sign the treaty. Lisa leaned closer. What happened to them? Nick's face was grim. They don't exist anymore. Their worlds were sterilized. Lisa straightened, her jaw set. Then we better make sure that doesn't happen to us. In orbit above Earth, the human defense fleet moved into position. Captain Will Barnes of the flagship Guardian addressed his crew. "We face an enemy with superior technology and numbers," he said calmly. "But we have something they don't expect. We will not surrender, no matter the odds." The Concorde ships began to move closer. Earth held its breath and prepared for whatever would come next. The Concorde fleet surrounded Earth in a show of overwhelming force. 7 massive warships, each one larger than anything humans had built, took positions above major cities. In the Crisis Command Center, Admiral Paul Wright studied the tactical display. His weathered face showed no fear, only determination. "They want us to feel helpless," he said to the assembled military leaders. "But I think it's time we show them what humans can do." President Alvarez looked concerned. "You're suggesting we attack first? That would be suicide." Admiral Wright shook his head. "Not attack. Demonstrate." 2 hours later, the plan was approved. Earth's newest weapon, the orbital defense cannon, targeted an uninhabited moon of Jupiter. The Concorde had placed monitoring stations there, but no living beings were present. Admiral Wright gave the order. "Fire." A beam of concentrated energy shot from the hidden base on Mars. It crossed the solar system in seconds and struck the moon. The impact was spectacular. The moon cracked, then shattered into thousands of pieces. Lisa Taylor made sure all Concorde communication channels received the video feed of the demonstration. "That was just one of our smaller weapons," she broadcast to the alien fleet. "We prefer peace, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." On the Concorde command ship, Commander Lazril watched the moon's destruction with shock. "Impossible," he whispered. "Their technology is not supposed to be this advanced." Ambassador Zox Tarek looked equally disturbed. The reports were wrong. These humans developed energy weapons independently. News of Earth's demonstration spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. On dozens of worlds, alien species watched recordings of the moon's destruction. For many, it was the first time they had seen any species stand up to the Concorde. On one of those worlds, Captain Amy Lewis led a covert mission. Her small stealth ship had slipped past Concorde defenses to land on Proxima II, home to the massive Concorde data archive. "Stay sharp," she told her team as they moved through the alien facility. "We have 30 minutes before their security sweep reaches this sector." Her intelligence specialist, Joe Rivera, worked quickly at the alien terminal. "I'm in their historical database, downloading everything about species that refuse treaties." Amy kept watch at the door. "Hurry. We need that information." Back on Earth, President Alvarez received a secure transmission from a surprising source. An alien calling itself Corvosh, from a species called the Nelvians. "Human leaders," the alien said through the translator. "What you have done has caused great fear in the Concorde. But for some of us, it has brought hope." "What do you mean?" President Alvarez asked. "My people signed the treaty 500 cycles ago," Corvosh explained. "Since then, we have lost millions to the Void War. The Concorde takes our young, and they never return." Sam Garcia leaned forward. "Are there others like you? Other species who resent the Concorde?" "Many," Corvosh replied, "but none have dared to speak until now. Your defiance has shown what might be possible." The transmission ended as abruptly as it began. Sam looked at Lisa. "We're not alone." When Amy's team returned from their mission, the information they brought was disturbing. Joe displayed the records on the main screen. "In the last 1,000 years, 3 species refused the treaty," he explained. "The Tarlox, the Vreen, and the Zoltar. All 3 were declared contaminated, and their homeworlds were sterilized." Lisa studied the images of the destroyed worlds, but they were all isolated species with primitive technology. "We're different. That's what's scaring them," Amy said. "We can actually fight back." In orbit, the Concorde fleet maintained its threatening posture. Commander Lazril received new orders from the High Chancellor. "Issue final ultimatum to humans. Sign treaty or face immediate quarantine." The commander opened a channel to Earth. "Human leaders, The Concorde's patience is exhausted. You have one planetary rotation to sign the treaty, or we will cut your world off from the stars forever. What the commander didn't know was that even as he spoke, 12 more alien species were secretly reaching out to Earth, asking how they too might break free from the Concorde's control. Lisa Taylor and Sam Garcia boarded a small, unmarked ship. Their mission was both dangerous and essential. They were heading to a secret meeting with representatives from other alien species who wished to speak with humans. "Are you sure this isn't a trap?" Sam asked as their pilot, Jeff Stewart, guided the ship away from Earth. Lisa checked her weapon, not sure of anything. "But we need allies, and this is our best chance." The meeting location was an abandoned mining facility on an asteroid in neutral space. When they arrived, 3 different alien ships were already there, hidden in the shadows of deep craters. Inside the facility, dim lights cast long shadows across the rusty metal walls. Lisa and Sam entered the main chamber cautiously. 5 different alien species waited for them. "The humans have come," said a tall, thin alien with gray skin. "I am Korvosh of the Nelvians, the one who contacted you." Lisa stepped forward. "We're here to listen." Another alien moved closer. This one had 4 arms and skin that shifted colors like oil on water. "I am Zelta of the Mordians. For 300 cycles, the Concorde has taken our children to fight their war. We want freedom." One by one, each alien shared similar stories. The Concorde's treaties had looked fair at first, but slowly turned their people into servants and soldiers. "Why haven't any of you rebelled before now?" Sam asked. A small insect-like alien clicked its mandibles. "The Concorde controls all advanced weapons. Any species that shows signs of rebellion is immediately punished." "But you," Korvosh said, looking at Lisa and Sam with all 4 of his eyes, "you humans developed weapons on your own. And you refused the treaty from the start. This has never happened before." Back on Earth, Nick Peterson made another breakthrough with the Concorde files that Amy's team had stolen. "Admiral Wright, I found something you need to see," Nick said, rushing into the command center. The Admiral looked up from the battle plans he was reviewing. "What is it?" Nick placed a tablet on the table. "The Concorde Inner Council keeps a threat assessment on all known species. Humans are the only ones listed as Level 5, maximum threat." "Why?" asked President Alvarez, who had been discussing defense options with the Admiral. "Because of our adaptability," Nick explained. "Most species evolve to fit specific environments. But humans can survive almost anywhere. We can eat almost anything. We heal quickly. And most importantly," he paused, "we never stop fighting. The Concorde has never encountered a species like us." In space, the Concorde fleet remained in position around Earth. On the command ship, a heated debate was taking place. "We should simply destroy them now," said military advisor Krenzel. "The longer we wait, the more dangerous they become." Ambassador Zox Terek shook his head. "The High Chancellor wants them contained, not destroyed. Their biological traits are too valuable." "And what if other species follow their example?" asked Commander Lazril. "Already we have reports of unrest on 3 worlds." In the asteroid meeting, Lisa shared Earth's findings about the Concorde's true purpose. "The treaty allows them to take your people for their military," she explained. "But we still don't know what this deep void threat really is." Korvosh looked at the other aliens, then back to Lisa. "Because there is no deep void threat. Not anymore." Sam leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "The deep void was real once, centuries ago," Korvosh said. "But the war ended long ago. The Concorde just never told anyone." "Then why do they still take our people?" asked the insect-like alien. To maintain control, Lisa realized, the pieces falling into place, and to keep building their power. "Will you help us?" Zelta asked, his skin turning a deep blue. "Will humans lead a rebellion against the Concorde?" Lisa and Sam exchanged glances. This was bigger than they had imagined. not just protecting Earth, but potentially freeing dozens of enslaved species. "We need to take this back to our leaders," Lisa said carefully. "But I believe Earth will stand with you." As their ship returned home, Lisa looked out at the stars. "If we do this, we'll be starting a galactic war." Sam nodded grimly. "Looks like it. And the Concorde has more ships, more weapons, more everything." "True," Sam said. "But they've never faced humans before." Nick Peterson hadn't left the Intelligence Center for 3 days. Empty coffee cups surrounded his workstation as he dug deeper into the Concorde files. When he finally found what he was looking for, his hands trembled. "I need to speak with Commander Taylor immediately," he told his team. "This changes everything." An hour later, Lisa Taylor, Sam Garcia, Admiral Wright, and President Alvarez gathered to hear Nick's discovery. The deep void threat was real once. Nick began, displaying ancient star charts on the main screen. A species from outside our galaxy invaded about 2,000 years ago. The Concorde defeated them after a long war. "We already knew that from Corvosh," Lisa said. Nick nodded. "Yes, but here's what no one knows. After the war, the Concorde ruling council realized something. They had built the largest military force in galactic history, and all member species were completely dependent on them for protection." He switched to a different display, showing meeting records from the ancient Concorde Council. They decided to keep the war going, at least as far as anyone knew. They maintained the fear, kept taking resources and people, and increased their power. President Alvarez leaned forward. "You're saying the entire basis of the Concorde, protection from this threat, is a lie?" "A lie that's been maintained for over 1,000 years, Nick confirmed. "And there's more. The Council doesn't just use the soldiers they take for defense. They're building something in the center of the galaxy. Something massive." Admiral Wright studied the images. "A weapon?" "I don't know," Nick admitted. "The files are heavily encrypted. But whatever it is, they've been building it for centuries using the resources and people they take from member worlds." Lisa stood up. "We need to share this with our alien contacts immediately." Meanwhile, on the Concorde capital world, High Chancellor Vex Mora faced a growing crisis. Reports came in from across the galaxy of species questioning their treaties, asking to see the original terms, even refusing to provide their yearly quota of resources and people. "This human contamination spreads too quickly," he snarled at his advisors. "Implement Emergency Protocol 7. His chief military advisor looked alarmed. "Chancellor, that would mean armed suppression on at least 6 worlds." "Then so be it," Vex Mora said coldly. "The system must be maintained." Back on Earth, preparations for conflict accelerated. Every ship, weapon, and soldier was made ready. But Earth's leaders knew they couldn't win alone against the entire Concorde. Lisa used the secure channel to contact their new allies. "We've confirmed everything Corvosh told us," she said to the gathered alien representatives. "And we found evidence of something else the Concorde is building." She shared Nick's findings. The aliens exchanged alarmed looks. "This explains why more and more of our people are taken each cycle," said Zelta. "What do you propose we do?" Admiral Wright stepped into view. "We form a coalition, the Free Species Alliance. Each of us contributes what we can to break the Concorde's control. Most of us have few weapons. Click the insect-like alien. The treaties forbid it." "We have weapons," Admiral Wright replied. "And we're willing to share them." On the Concorde command ship, Commander Lazril received troubling news. "Sir, we've detected unusual activity. Multiple ships from different species are converging near human space." Ambassador Zox Tarek looked concerned. "The humans are building a coalition. This has gone too far." He opened a channel to the capital. "High Chancellor, we need authorization for immediate action against Earth." Vex Mora didn't hesitate. "Permission granted. Make an example of them." The Concorde ships began to move, weapons powering up. But as they advanced toward Earth, sensors detected new arrivals. Ships from a dozen different species appeared, taking positions around Earth in a protective formation. Commander Lazaril stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Impossible. These species are fighting together. On Earth, Lisa watched the Allied ships arrive with a mix of hope and fear. Earth had done what no one thought possible: united different species against the Concord. Admiral Wright gave the command to all ships, human and alien alike. Defensive positions. The Concord has ruled through fear for 1,000 years. Today that ends. The greatest space battle in galactic history was about to begin. The space around Earth lit up with weapons fire. The Concord ships, larger and more powerful, fired the first shots. Earth's defense systems activated instantly, creating shields of energy around the planet. Captain Amy Lewis commanded the human flagship Guardian. Her voice was steady as she gave orders to the combined fleet. All ships, hold formation. Remember your training. We may have fewer ships, but we know their weak points. The human ships moved with surprising speed, darting between the massive Concord vessels. The alien allies followed their lead, learning human battle tactics on the fly. On the main Concord battleship, Commander Lazaril watched with growing concern. The humans fight differently, he told his officers. They don't follow standard battle patterns. His tactical officer nodded. And they shared their technology with the other species. Look how the Nelvian ships have been modified. Across the galaxy, the battle was being broadcast on every communication channel. Lisa Taylor had made sure of that. On dozens of worlds, species that had lived under Concord control for centuries watched humans and their allies fighting back. We need to share the truth, Lisa told Sam as they worked in Earth's communication center. About the deep void lie, about what the Concord has been doing. Sam nodded. I've prepared the message with all the evidence from the Concord files, ready to broadcast on your command. Lisa pressed the button. Send it to every world in the galaxy. The message went out, containing all of Nick Peterson's discoveries. The truth about the long-ended Deep Void War. The secret project at the Galaxy Center. The 1,000-year deception that had kept so many species in submission. On the Concord capital world, High Chancellor Vex Moore received alarming reports. Uprisings on 17 worlds, his security chief reported, voice shaking. The humans have shared the council records. The people know the truth. Vex Moore slammed all 8 limbs down in fury. How did they access those files? They were sealed for millennia. In the battle above Earth, the tide began to turn. 3 Concord ships had been disabled, their crews abandoning ship in escape pods. The human and allied fleet had lost ships too, but they fought on with incredible determination. Commander Lazaril received new orders from the capital. Destroy Earth at all costs. Use the Nova weapon. He hesitated. The Nova weapon would not just destroy Earth, but much of the solar system. It would kill millions, including his own troops still fighting in the area. Prepare the Nova weapon, he ordered finally. His officers moved to comply, though some looked uncertain. On her ship, Amy Lewis detected the energy buildup in the Concord flagship. They're charging some kind of super weapon, she told Admiral Wright over the comm. Energy readings are off the charts. The Admiral's reply was immediate. Implement Operation Spearhead. Amy nodded to her weapons officer. You heard the Admiral. Target their main weapon port with the phase disruptors. 3 human ships broke formation, accelerating to full speed directly toward the Concord flagship. They were smaller, faster vessels, designed for this exact mission. This is Captain Greg Bennett of the Interceptor, came a voice over the comm. We'll get it done, Captain Lewis. The 3 ships dodged through enemy fire, taking hits but continuing their charge. Greg's ship was hit badly, trailing debris and fire. We're hit but still moving, Greg reported, almost in range. On the Concord ship, Commander Lazaril watched in horror. Stop those ships. The Nova weapon isn't fully protected until charging is complete. The 3 human ships fired their phase disruptors simultaneously, blue beams striking the charging weapon port. There was a moment of silence. Then a massive explosion ripped through the Concorde flagship. "Direct hit," Greg shouted, the weapons destabilizing. Amy watched as chain reactions spread through the massive Concorde vessel. "All ships, pull back. That ship is going to blow." The explosion was visible from Earth's surface, a new temporary star in the sky. The Concorde flagship was gone, along with their most powerful weapon. But the battle was far from over. Even as the humans and their allies celebrated this victory, more Concorde ships were arriving. And across the galaxy, the rebellion had only just begun. 3 weeks after the Battle of Earth, the war had spread across the galaxy. On 27 worlds, people rose up against their Concorde administrators. The once mighty Galactic Concorde was fighting on too many fronts at once. Admiral Wright stood on the bridge of Earth's newest ship, the Freedom. Around him, a fleet of over 200 vessels from a dozen different species prepared to jump to light speed. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said his communications officer. Wright nodded. "Then it's time to end this. Set course for Zentrix Prime." The combined fleet of the Free Species Alliance was taking the fight directly to the Concorde capital. It was a bold, perhaps reckless move, but humans had shown the galaxy that boldness could succeed. On Zentrix Prime, panic spread through the government district. High Chancellor Vex Mora supervised the evacuation of the Inner Council. "How much longer until my ship is ready?" he demanded of his aide. 10 more minutes, Chancellor," the aide replied nervously. "We're loading the last of your personal items." Vex Mora looked out at the chaos around him. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Concorde was losing control, all because one species had refused to sign a treaty. The Free Species fleet arrived in the Zentrix system to find minimal resistance. Most of the Concorde military was scattered across the galaxy, trying to put down rebellions on multiple worlds. Lisa Taylor and Sam Garcia were aboard the Freedom as part of the diplomatic team. Their job would begin once the fighting ended. "I never thought we'd be here," Sam said, looking at the blue-green world of Zentrix Prime through the view screen. "Taking the fight to the heart of the Concorde." Lisa nodded, "All because we refused to sign their treaty." The battle for the capital was brief but intense. The remaining Concorde ships fought desperately, but were overwhelmed by the combined fleet. On the planet's surface, many Concorde officials surrendered immediately, seeing the tide had turned. High Chancellor Vex Mora almost escaped. His personal ship was lifting off when Captain Amy Lewis led a strike team to the spaceport. "Disable that ship," she ordered. Her team fired precision shots that damaged the ship's engines, forcing it back to the ground. When Amy's team entered the ship, they found Vex Mora trying to destroy files in his private chamber. "High Chancellor," Amy said, her weapon aimed steadily, "you are under arrest by authority of the Free Species Alliance." Vex Mora looked at the human female in disbelief. "You have no idea what you've done," he hissed. "The system worked for 1,000 years before you interfered." Amy smiled grimly. "A system built on lies and slavery isn't worth preserving." 2 weeks later, representatives from over 50 species gathered on neutral ground, an ancient space station that predated even the Concorde. It was time to build something new. Lisa Taylor and Sam Garcia led the human diplomatic team. They sat at a round table with leaders from across the galaxy, many of whom had been enemies just months before. "The old Concorde is finished," said Corvash, who now represented the Free Nelvians. "We must create something better in its place." Lisa stood to address the gathering. "Humans don't pretend to have all the answers. We're new to this galaxy, but we believe in certain principles that might guide us all." She outlined a vision for a new galactic charter based on equality, mutual defense, and personal freedom. No species would rule over others. No one would be forced to provide soldiers against their will. The debate lasted for days, but in the end, a new agreement was reached. The Galactic Alliance would replace the Concorde, with each species having an equal voice. As the representatives signed the new charter, willingly this time, Sam turned to Lisa with a smile. "You know, across the galaxy they've created a new phrase. To human up means to stand firm and demand fair treatment, even when facing impossible odds. Lisa laughed. I can live with that. On Earth, people celebrated the news of peace. They had entered the galactic stage by refusing to submit, and in doing so had changed the course of history for countless worlds. Years later, alien historians would mark the day humans refused to sign a treaty as the beginning of a new era in galactic civilization. The day fear began to give way to hope.